It's that time of year again where we all want to analyze how we did, and my good buddy Kyle Van Deusen put together this incredible resource called the Agency Report Card. He shared this with me and a couple of other people to test, but I actually didn't do it. The reason why is I wanted to record it and do it live in real time with you, walk through kind of my thought process of my own business, and let you see maybe how you can best do this for yourself moving forward. If you're new here, my name is Jonathan Jernigan. I create WordPress tutorials, so go ahead and click that subscribe button. And now let's go ahead and jump into the agency report card. So here we have the agency report card. So as you can see, it says get insights into how your agency is performing. So the idea here is that you grade yourself on your performance. I really don't think this has to be used at the end of the year. It just so happens to be that time of the year for me right now, where I'm looking really heavily into how I did last year and how I'm hoping to do next year. So this is going to be a great resource. The idea is that there are a series of questions here and you're going to grade yourself on 0 to 100. And you're going to have the ability to email this to yourself. So you have a record of it. We can reference it later and kind of check in on ourselves and see how we're doing. It says, treat this self-assessment as a spark for thought, conversation, and brainstorming, not as a comprehensive analysis of your business. That's something that I'm doing, as well as looking into a more deep revenue analysis of my business. And that video will be coming soon. So let's just jump right into this. So I'm going to look at one section at a time. So the first one here is client satisfaction. Rate your success in getting positive feedback from all clients. This is something that I feel like I do reasonably well. Interestingly, I'm a member of the Admin Bars table group, and we were just today talking about the idea of feedback and design process and that kind of thing. So I think I would give myself maybe more like an 85%, because generally it's actually pretty rare. So maybe even more than that, maybe more like 90% of the time we are pretty good about getting positive feedback, but that's largely due to processes. I think having a pretty detailed onboarding form, or not so much even specifically detailed, but getting enough information that we can interpret from there. Then in terms of taking that onboarding form and turning it into something that the client is happy with, we're generally pretty good at. And in my business, that's mainly on me. I'm sort of in the position of project manager, if you will. I'm not typically in the super nitty-gritty. I will jump in and build projects and websites just because I like to keep my skills fresh, but I do have a contracted designer and developer on my team as well. So a lot of my client-facing interactions are kind of in that intermediary phase between the client and the developer and designer. So I think overall I do a pretty good job on that. Rate how effectively you managed complaints or issues. It's a tough one. I don't typically have upset clients, and I feel like I'm pretty good about talking them off the ledge. Although sometimes I think I let things sit a little bit longer than they should. So, I mean, realistically, because predominantly people are typically happy, maybe I'll give myself more like an 80. I think when there are issues, you kind of know when they're coming ahead of time. You sort of have that feeling like you're about to get that email, or you just know something isn't right. And that's just sort of intuition that I think we all hopefully have, but I feel like I have a pretty strong sense of that. So I think I could definitely improve that a little bit more. Rate the effectiveness of your communication with clients. I think I do a really good job at this. I think probably pretty high up on the scale, because I try to record little, Loom type videos for clients really regularly. I try to respond to emails really rapidly. And especially with the way that we work internally, we bring in our clients to Basecamp, and they don't have to, interact inside of the system. They can just reply to the emails. So we try to be really thorough and keep conversations kind of really focused. And so I think effectiveness of communication with clients overall is definitely pretty good. And in fact, I think I'm going to give myself maybe, 95. We'll stick with 95. I don't think I deserve a perfect A+ grade on that one. Rate your success in managing client expectations. I think I do a really good job at this for standard business websites. For larger projects, I had 2 that kind of dragged on and on and on this summer, and that was largely just due to the breadth and the scope of them. The scoping documents were both pretty detailed, but it was still just tough. Even though we did exactly what we were supposed to and built all the functionality, it just seemed like it was never enough. And that's not very typical of the smaller sites, standard brochure type websites. I think this year did like 12 of those, and then did like 3 large sites. 2 of the 3 large sites both kind of went off the rails. So managing expectations, I think I'd probably have to weight it like maybe 80%, 85%, because for the most part it's pretty good. But I had those 2 that just, I think, really weighted average bring it down kind of significantly. Okay, so then next up is financial health. Rate your success in meeting or exceeding revenue targets. I'm going to give myself a pretty strong score for this. The reason why is I was able to bring revenue year over year up by about 10%, which isn't exactly what I wanted. I was hoping for more like 20 or 25%. But what I did manage to do was significantly reduce my expenses by like $25,000. And so that makes it feel a whole lot more profitable because, just finding money and the bottom line by cutting expenses was really a positive benefit for me this year. So I think I would give myself, about a 90%. I think that's fair. If I could grow 10% year over year as a stable target, I'm very happy with that. Although, of course, I wouldn't complain if it was more like 25% or even more. Rate your efficiency in managing business expenses and investments. I think in terms of business expenses and investments, I'm really good at this. I'm very careful about what I'm purchasing for the business. And in terms of, just the investments that I'm making, I really don't make investments all that often that you might consider frivolous or, not very smart. I typically am able to hold on to cash really well. And that's honestly a byproduct of me personally having financial issues in the past, many, many years ago. And so it's really just an intentional effort for me being much more careful. That's not exactly true about my personal expenses because I love my hobbies, my car projects, and those kinds of things. So if we're looking at specifically business, that's one side of it. And then in terms of personal side, that's secondary. But really, the personal side is never going to jeopardize the business. Rate how well you managed your cash flow challenges. I would say pretty good. This year was a strong year, and like I said, I had a lot of expenses that were dropped off, so it felt really good. The later part of this year has been relatively quiet, so that is I would say probably bringing down the score a little bit. How well you managed cash flow challenges. Trying to think in terms of if there was anything major. I think right now, just pulling back a little bit is pretty good. I, of course, want to, like I said, spend money on the hobbies and the projects, but you gotta pull back when things kind of dip down a little bit. So actually, one thing that could kind of tie into this is managing cash flow challenges, I think could be tied into maybe like your MRR growth, either through care plans or, other ancillary monthly services you can sell to clients. And that's actually something that I struggled with this year. Like I said, a large percentage of my revenue was a couple of big projects, and those were either white label or they were handed off to the client and, they ran with it. Some people don't do that. That's just how it worked out for me. And the side effect of that is there is no MRR or care plan associated with those. Maybe I could have tailored it a bit better to have some kind of support contract or something. I didn't do that. That's just the reality of where we're at. So I could probably alleviate some of these quiet times in the later part of the year and in the early part of the new year if I had better MRR growth. But honestly, that's a large part of the reason why I wanted to create Pi Calendars. Have a product that exists and has a recurring subscription that maybe it doesn't, pay all of the bills, but it contributes healthily to the MRR. So that's a big portion of it. Rate your effectiveness in tracking and analyzing financial metrics. I'm really good at this. I have what I consider to be a really comprehensive spreadsheet. It helps me understand where all of my money is coming from. I have a secondary spreadsheet where I track every single expense that I have in terms of bills and monthly expenditures, where all the money is coming from, which client is paying which, what fees are deducted out of that. And I have a very clear picture on a month-to-month basis of how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. And so, and year over year too, I built a spreadsheet over the last couple of years to help me track that. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely let me know. I might have already released a video on that by the time you're seeing this. We'll see. But overall, I'm definitely going to give myself a pretty strong score on this. So yeah, tracking and analyzing financial metrics. I actually really enjoy that part of the business, to be honest. Okay, so just quickly reviewing these. Success in meeting or exceeding revenue targets. I think I might actually bump myself down. 10% is good, but that's barely over inflation. That's a tough one. It's between 85 and 90%. I think I'll err on the side of caution and go with 85. Efficiency in managing business expenses and investments. Yeah, pretty good. If I understand that question properly. And then how well you manage cash flow. Yeah, maybe bump myself down again. Maybe I shouldn't review this because I'm lowering my own scores here. I think I could have done a lot better job about building MRR with this cash flow challenge here. Definitely. So I think that's fair. I think it said 70% was fail. I don't think I failed because I have plenty of money left over. I was cash flow positive, just not quite to the extent. If I hadn't had these large projects, I wouldn't be cash flow positive. So, that, I guess it's a pass technically. And then effectiveness and tracking, yeah, I feel that's fine. Innovation. Rate your success in the introduction of a new services, tools, or processes. Yeah, I think reasonably well. I don't know that it would be much more than like a 75% maybe, because overall the only thing that really changed was introducing the monthly recurring websites late in 2022, and then that's kind of carried over this year. So that was a good deal of time was spent on developing the onboarding process, what that looks like, and just how to kind of manage my team better so I could pull myself out of some of the, kind of minutia of building sites and Figma and that kind of thing. So I think reasonably, but beyond that, there really wasn't a whole lot of reinvention to my business in 2023. So that's definitely, I think it's a pass, but not a resounding pass. Rate how well you kept up with the industry trends and technological advancements. I think pretty good. I would say, in terms of big upheavals like ChatGPT and stuff, they have become a very valuable asset to my business. New WordPress plugins and, just things that we need to be paying attention to, like accessibility and those kinds of things. I've actually done a pretty good job with that, especially incorporating them and trying to convey those things to clients in a way where I want to be, kind of leading the charge for them and the person who's bringing them important things that they need to know about. So I think I've done a pretty good job. And I mean, something like attending WordCamp, that feels like a huge boost to staying on top of industry trends and that kind of thing, just being able to connect with people. So yeah, I think 85% is probably good. I'm sure I could do more. I could probably be more ever present. But in 2024, I'm going to be kicking off my revamped series of Inside Link. And what that's going to bring us is a lot of interviews and just new topics and discussions. So that I think will probably be dramatically improved in 2024. Rate your efforts in creative thinking and innovation. I think I struggle with this, to be honest, just in general, because I end up with a lot of self-doubt that what I have to say is valuable, or that, what I'm doing is interesting or cool in some way and deserves to be shared. I have people tell me, oh, you should just share that. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that interesting though. Like, nobody cares about this. I struggle with that quite a lot. So I think in terms of creative thinking and innovation, I come up with ideas and I do things in my own business that don't see the light of day, and perhaps they should. So I think it's barely a pass, because the creative thinking portion, my brain is always churning with ideas. I never really have any difficulty with coming up with new ideas and spinning up innovative things, I don't think, but I think right on the border of pass fail. Rate your investment in research and development. I spend a lot of time trying to learn and discover and listen to new things and figure out, is there something else that I need to be paying attention to? Stuff like full site editing, for instance, or, block themes, things like that are valuable to the business, trying to stay on top of trends and that kind of thing. Overall, I am very intentional not to kind of jump to the next shiny red ball. I try to keep my business really stable, really simple and consistent. So in terms of investment in research and development, I definitely do, but I probably could do a bit better in terms of sharing those sorts of things that I'm uncovering. And that might go back to the previous question about creative thinking and innovation. These two kind of feel tied together to me. So in terms of how I do, reasonably well, but I don't think this whole innovation section I've done a particularly resounding job of just yet. Next up, work-life balance. I love this. I knew just without even looking at the questions, when I saw this was one of the sections, I was like, oh, I'm going to smash this section. So rate your ability to maintain a healthy work-life balance. I mean, I'm in my opinion, I have about as good as it gets. And the reason why is because for years, I've been super, super intentional about the types of clients that I bring on and the types of work that I'm doing. I mean, I still get it wrong. Like I mentioned, I had these two big clients that really dragged on and went really hard, that were very challenging to complete. So, it's not perfect, but I think overall I have a super flexible schedule. I can start and stop anytime I want. And, there's never a time where personal life can't come first. So that's something that's really important to me. I guess that's actually that's actually part of the next question here. Rate your ability to keep work from interfering with your personal life. I mean, I think that overall, I get a really good score on this. It's not perfect because I still find myself thinking about work and doing things, after hours and kind of off the clock on the weekends and stuff. But really this year, I've been better at it than probably any other time in my kind of agency life. In 2021 kind of time frame, even like probably 2019, I spent just every waking moment, thinking about work, logging into WordPress, trying different things. And that was exhausting. I felt like I was not doing anything except those. So, 2022 and also in particular 2023 wasn't necessarily an intentional effort, but I just knew that I had to make it better. And so, that's I think I did get a pretty good score there. Rate the adequacy of your relaxation and rejuvenation time. I think I do pretty well. Probably not quite a banger 100% or 95% on this particular one because, I tend to want to work on certain projects like courses or PyCalendar or those kinds of things in my downtime. But those are in some ways rejuvenating because it's exciting. It has a broad reach and appeal, and it's just a good way for me to spend the time. But I could probably pull back on some of that and do something else, like read a book or go for a walk or something like that, So in terms of adequacy, I would say it's pretty good. Probably could be better to be fully disconnected from the internet and technology, but, there's always room for improvement. Rate your efforts in reducing stress and burnout. For me, what really is the most effective way to reduce stress and burnout, and I need to take my own advice here at this very moment, is fully disconnecting. And in particular, it's traveling. For me, when I travel, I just come up with ideas and I'm excited. I come home and I'm refreshed and ready to rock and roll. It allows me to be present in that moment with whatever I'm doing. Whatever place I'm in or whatever activity we're doing, that is really what helps me reduce stress and burnout. And this year, I went to so many different places. It felt like I was on a plane every 6 weeks or driving somewhere, every 8 weeks, something like that, which really, I set an internal goal for myself. I didn't write it down or share this. I should have, now that I'm saying this out loud. But I wanted to be traveling. I wanted to be going somewhere every 90 days. And I think I met or exceeded that. So that for me, that's pretty much 100% on that one. Traveling is just, that's what excites me, and really, like, outside of my hobbies like car projects, that's pretty much it. Yeah, so 100% for sure. Team management. I do have a couple of contractors. Rate your effectiveness in leading and managing your team. I think I do a really good job on this because, like I said, I am essentially the project manager. This is definitely an area of improvement, or an area that I can improve in. So in terms of managing and leading, I do a good job on this. I could do better in the sense of like bringing them more into the fold of client interactions. I try to keep a healthy distance there, just, for their sake and also for mine, and in terms of just controlling the messaging and making sure that the quality standards are high. Rate the support and resources provided for team success. This is probably a significant area of improvement because, if I think about support and resources, like whatever they need in terms of purchasing something, I'll do. But outside of that, honestly, there's not a whole lot else. I ask them all the time, do you need something? Can I do this in a different way that would make it easier for you? And I don't normally hear anything. So I always assume that they're happy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy. So rate the support and resources provided for team success. I think it's a fail because there's not really anything in place. So I'll have to think about that and really consider, like, what can I do to make it, other than money and bonuses. That is one key part of it, but what else? Rate your conflict resolution skills within the team. I'm really happy to say that we have next to no issues or conflicts. Now that I have two fantastic contractors, one designer, one developer, I've been using them for a while. Prior to this, it was really difficult. I was really bad about letting people who were doing shit work sticking around too long. But now, also my video editor, shout out Shalev, the conflict resolution is basically not necessary because everybody's exceptional, and they just do a fantastic job. So there's not really any conflicts for the most part. And I think that kind of goes back to me being sort of in some ways the bottleneck, but also like kind of the filter. So I'm filtering things from clients and filtering it back out and, kind of in between the team. So really there's not a whole lot of conflict, or sort of even possibility for it to show up. Rate your investment in team development and training. This is definitely a mega fail for me. I think, essentially nothing. It's kind of striking to see it in this particular way. I think I have to give myself basically a fail. And in terms of this question, going back to it for a second, support, I do everything I can to try to help them. So I think that's a fair assessment. Definitely still a fail because in terms of resources, there's not a whole lot. In terms of investment in team development and training, that needs a big bump up. So yeah, that's a total absolute fail. I can acknowledge that. Marketing and outreach, rate the ROI of your marketing efforts. Well, I mean, I think overall, to this day and for many years now, YouTube has been the biggest driver of, of client work for me, and just spreading the word for things like Pi Calendar and my courses. So I think it's really effective. Although, it's not perfect for me because the consistency just isn't there. So that's, part of what I talked about with wanting to take Inside Link to the next level and just be more consistent and bring on more interesting people. To chat with it's just an extremely effective channel for me, and one that has worked really well, and one that I need to push further. So in terms of ROI, it's very, very good, but is it as good as it can be? Definitely not. And that's just simply a product of kind of my effort into it. I think an 80% is adequate because there's a lot of room for improvement for sure. Rate your exploration of new marketing channels or strategies. I think I'll probably leave this. I don't know. I don't know if it deserves a fail because I don't really explore that many new things. Rate your exploration of new marketing channels or strategies. I mean, I don't really explore anything. It kind of goes back to what I said before about keeping things really simple and consistent and trying to focus on what works. So maybe it's not so much a fail as it is just a 70%, not a fail, not a pass. But I mean, I guess that's technically a fail because I didn't explore new channels or strategies. So maybe I'll give myself like a 60% on that. Rate the effectiveness of your brand building efforts. I think I didn't do good in 2023 in particular. I think I feel a little bit disjointed with the channels that I have in terms of, YouTube consistency is one aspect of it. I have the Facebook group, but it's tough when there's a lot of other really high quality Facebook groups and not wanting to just simply dilute the quality of what's out there. What can I bring to the table is a question I think about all the time. And, I already touched on that in this video. And then I have a Discord server. It's like, well, I need to better figure out like, what can I do consistently that helps people and would be a brand building exercise? Maybe it's email. Email is probably something that I could stay on top of, share little nuggets and things on a regular basis, more so than wanting to spend a bunch of time in Facebook. I enjoy the other communities that already exist. So in some ways, I feel like I'm reinventing the wheel with something like Facebook, or Discord obviously has its problems. So perhaps that could be an area of improvement for me. I probably should start taking notes on these things, but I guess I can also reference my material once the email comes in. Effectiveness of your brand building efforts, definitely more so on the fail side. I'd have to look at how many videos I did this year, but it's not that many. So it's not a total fail because I did do some stuff, but probably not enough to really make it, hockey stick growth kind of thing. Rate your engagement kind of goes back to what I was just saying. I mean, reasonably well. I think one of the most effective things this year was going to WordCamp and getting to connect with some of the other content creators and, viewers of my channel. So I appreciate all of you for that. In terms of other engagement though, I think really that goes back to kind of the consistency aspect. If I was more consistent in my content creation and the channels that I was sharing it in and how to engage, then that would probably be, a better way to engage with people. So that's a significant area of improvement for me. I think maybe 50% might be a little bit generous. I think these two are very closely tied in together. So we'll make them 40% each. I'm not looking forward to that particular score. Professional development. Rate your investment in learning and skill enhancement. I'm trying to think of what investment in learning and skill enhancement I've done specifically. I'm always trying to explore new things, so I guess I would give myself some extra credit for that one. I am definitely trying to constantly improve my learning and skill just to be on top of things. I don't know. I think we'll leave it at 70 for now. Rate your professional growth over the past year. I think it's really good. I've definitely gained more confidence, and I think I have a better idea more so than ever in the direction I want to take the business and clarity in the things that are really effective in driving me forward. I don't know, rate your investment in learning and skill enhancement. Actually, I am part of the table group and I consistently show up to that nearly every single week. I really, really enjoy that. And I know this question isn't necessarily for the future too, but I have a coaching session that starts next year, January 2024, that I'm really excited about. So maybe I'll give myself a little bit more bonus there. Over the past year has been pretty good. Like I said, I am a part of the table group and that's been really great. I look forward to it. The people in there are smart and interesting, and everybody shares, a lot of valuable information. So I think it's pretty good. I have been intentional to drop out things like I used to be a huge proponent and attendee of BNI. I don't do that anymore because it just wasn't, helping me in the direction I wanted to take the business. So I think I'm reasonably good at that. There's always room for improvement. So over the past year, probably 85%. So I've been really intentional to just take things more slowly, and I want to wait for things to feel right. And in some ways, that slow movement may not be conducive to the right action all the time. But what I'm finding, especially over the last 6 months or the last year, is when I wait for that feeling to, hit me, to feel right, then when I get into that project or whatever that effort is, it just feels right. Like I feel committed to it and I want to keep going. But if I come up with an idea and I rush right into it, then it just doesn't quite hit me in the same way. And that's something that I feel like has made a huge impact for me, is really just slowing down and really consolidating what I'm spending my time on, being much more intentional. Kind of goes back to the previous topics about consistency and kind of marketing and outreach. They're all kind of tied together. Rate your participation in professional development activities. I mean, the biggest one, like I mentioned, is table. I don't regularly miss that group at all in terms of like missing meetings. I really look forward to them, and I make time pretty consistently. So that's definitely high up. And then engaging just in other communities and calls and going to, word camps and stuff like that. So I think I do a pretty good job at this. Rate the effectiveness of the resources, books, courses, mentors you utilized. I have no shame in admitting what I don't know, asking people for help and getting feedback. I think that's a little bit of a slippery slope where it can be almost to a detriment sometimes. But for the most part, I think I would rate my score pretty high on this, maybe like 85%, 90% ish, because books and courses are a big area for me where I need to make more time for reading, and probably for some courses as well. I bought a design course like, I don't know, 9 months ago or something, and didn't even start it. So yeah, especially for books too, because left to my own devices, I walk out that door and I plop down on the couch and watch YouTube rather than reading a book. So that's something I could certainly improve on. Okay, 8 out of 9 section here, customer support. Rate your response time and effectiveness in handling customer inquiries. I'm typically very fast if they're easy. And I'm not afraid to admit that, because sometimes I'll read an email fairly quickly and it's going to be a hassle or it's annoying, and I have a bad tendency to let those sit for too long. So I think that is actually kind of more of a fail, really, because for the most part, I do answer things really quickly, but the ones where it sits and it festers for a while probably is way worse, and net brings the score down way more than the ones where I answer quickly and make them happy. I don't know. I think I'd lean more into a fail here. I think really a big part of this is I just need to get better at delegating some of these tasks. In particular this year, those 2 large projects that I had were just so cumbersome, and I was the lead on every aspect of it. So there was a bit of a kind of scale issue where I couldn't really bring in my developer on that. It was just like there's too much going on, too much ACF and custom code, and too many problems that could arise from letting somebody who just doesn't know how it was built into the system. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement here, but it would be really a challenge of delegation, I think. Rate the improvements implemented in your customer support system. I mean, this year is really the first year that we really started bringing people in regularly to Basecamp. I used to do it kind of every now and again, but now it's just it always happens for new website design projects. So I think that's really good, because it's been extremely effective for us. I've been surprised at the number of people that actually come into the system and poke around, upload files and add comments and that kind of thing, rather than just replying to the emails directly. So I think pretty good. It's definitely pretty good. Although, again, it goes back to delegation and scale. Like, I'm still the bottleneck, so there's plenty of room for improvement here, even though I think overall it went well. Ensuring post-project customer satisfaction. Again, this goes back to those 2 nutty apples kind of spoiling the bunch for the rest of this. The project went so well. I did for these 2 projects, like I mentioned. I did so much of what they asked for, exactly spot on, and even outside the scope of work in some extent, because I just wanted to get the project done right and properly. And then, even then, there was still just like issues after the fact. It partly goes back to response time in some ways, but then also just like, when is the end? And that goes back to maybe a scoping issue or that kind of thing. But in general, for kind of the monthly sites, exceptional. I mean, if I were to only look at monthly sites as a whole, it's fantastic, because we are super, super fast about making tweaks and updates and helping people. But for these big projects where like they would be dead in the water if we didn't help, it's just not as good. So yeah, that's a big area of improvement. I think I give myself a definite fail, kind of, middle of the road overall between all clients. Rate the robustness and effectiveness of your current support networks or the resources for your business. I think really, really good. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of very smart connections in the WordPress space. Pretty much anybody in WordPress, if I don't know, I probably know somebody that can connect me to them, which is a great spot to be in. But then also just like friends and coworkers. But then also just the idea of, having friends and people in the space to connect with that also do the same things and are in the trenches as well. I have a lot of what I would consider actual friends that have come from just networking through Facebook groups like the Admin Bar and through YouTube videos. And there's just so many people. So shout out to Kyle, Taylor Drayson, Elijah Mills, just so many people like that really mean a lot to me. And so yeah, you guys helped me bump this score up to 95%, I would say. Strategic planning, rate the clarity and measurability of your goals. Definitely a pretty big fail, honestly. I typically have goals in mind, but they're not, smart. They're not measurable. They're not regularly looked at. So I don't know. That's a big area for me where I can really step this up. That's simple as that. Rate how effectively you balance following your business plan with adapting to new circumstances. I think I do okay. But again, this goes back to keeping my business super simple and really honed in on one specific, offering, which is website design. Used to offer social media and SEO and, other things like graphic design, but those things all change so rapidly and there's so much subjectivity to them that I just decided these change too often. They're too far out of my control and I want to drop them. So I think really this is a good score because I've been intentional about dropping some of that, other sort of dead weight, in my opinion, out. Rate the effectiveness of your data-driven business decisions. I think I do a decent job at this. And that goes back to, some of the sort of internal reports I've created for myself, like year-over-year growth, specifically what services, what expenses I have, and those kinds of things. Last year, looking at my expenses and realizing I spent nearly $50,000 on payroll and contractors, I just realized I absolutely have to make a decision and change something in the business. I can't be spending that much money for the revenue that I generate. And the types of work that I'm doing. I don't want to have a massive payroll. And so I made a huge change. And like I said, I managed to shave off like over $25,000 of that. And it's been fantastic for me. So yeah, I think overall that deserves a pretty high score. Rate your ability to anticipate and manage business risks. I think this is a tough one for me to answer because I am a pretty risk, not the opposite of risk averse. I'm a person that's willing typically to take risks, especially when it comes to money. I just always have confidence that, I'll find another way to build it back or get more, or, I'm just not typically worried as long as it's not threatening, the roof over my head and food on the table for the family. I'm willing to take and manage risks. In terms of anticipate them, I don't know. I think I'd have to leave this kind of right in the middle. I don't think it's a pass. I don't think it's a fail. Yeah, I'm pretty willing to take some risks. And with that, looks like we're ready for our grade. So, okay, agency report card, 77%. We did pass, but barely. That was pretty much my grades in all of school, high school, college, everything. If I got a 70, I was pretty stoked. So I'm pretty stoked. Okay, category scores. Client satisfaction is 87, financial health is 90, innovation is 78. That's kind of crazy. I would have thought my own innovation score would be higher. Work-life balance, I knew that one was going to be the best one, 96%. I have no doubt that is correct. You can just ask Taylor Drayson about that. He jokes that I'm on a plane every other day. Team management really comes down to resources and training. So that is definitely an important metric that I can fix. Marketing and outreach is really going to be fixed by consistency and probably consolidating what I'm doing, probably making some shifts to where I'm posting, what I'm sharing, and that kind of thing. Professional development is really good, probably to do with Table and the resource of other people around me that I have. Customer support is 72%. I think that's a fair assessment. Pretty good. As the dude in Chernobyl says, something along the lines of like not good, not great. Strategic planning is 68%. Yeah, that can definitely use some improvement. So there is plenty of room for improvement. Let's see what the feedback says. Looks like financial health is strong, which is fantastic. You can leverage the stability by reinvesting. I do try to do that. Exploring new avenues or saving for future growth. Don't forget to reward yourself for all your hard work. I definitely do that. I'm jealous at your ability to balance work and life. Oh gosh, Kyle, I know you're speaking directly to me in this one, which is crucial for long-term success and personal well-being. You should be proud. Most business owners struggle in this area. Keep up the great work and consider sharing your strategies for work-life balance with your peers and clients who are likely struggling in these areas. If you're interested in how I manage that work-life balance, I could probably make some blog posts or some videos talking about that. So let me know. Team building is hard. Focus on improving communication, offering regular feedback, and involving the team in decision making. That's actually something that I could definitely do. Involve them in decision making. Maybe I should have given myself a little bit more credit here because I do offer regular feedback. I'm not afraid to say when things suck and they need more work, but like I said, I have good team members, so that's pretty rare that that happens. But team building activities and ongoing training will definitely be a good thing. Crucial for your long-term health of the business to invest in your marketing and outreach. You have little control over referrals. It's so true. You don't have to master every channel. Pick something up you enjoy or at least don't hate and focus all your efforts there. Yeah, I think that's speaking to me pretty clearly because really what I need to do is continue focusing on YouTube. And what I've been thinking about, I'm going to just vocalize this and put it out into the world. What I've been thinking about is closing down my Facebook group. It doesn't feel like an avenue that is really that worthwhile. And then probably deleting my Discord server and finding one other channel that I can regularly post in. Maybe it's email. And then, you know, I hang out in the admin bar or another group like that I love. And then that might be the key because really I think I need to start dropping things that I can't be consistent at. If I can't be consistent at sharing interesting things on Facebook, or like I mentioned, going back to diluting the effectiveness of that group. Yeah, that's a good thing to read. Detail-oriented people like you often struggle with seeing the big picture. That is very true. But without a vision and strategic plan, you could easily end up getting burnt out. Consider coaching programs or mentors that help you see things from a different perspective and point things out you might not be obvious. Yeah. So I feel like I do a pretty good job of that, of asking for opinions from people I really trust and value in this space. So that's not something so much that I struggle with, but more like the strategic planning for the future. So big area of possible, improvement for me. Yes, I do want my results emailed to me. I'm already on the list, so I'm not too worried about that. Looking forward to more Friday Chasers. And overall, this is a fantastic exercise. So if you haven't done this, click the link in the description below to be taken to this. So I would encourage you to do this. Take the time to be really detail oriented and think about these questions and send it to yourself in your email. Sign up for the email list. You're not going to regret signing up for Kyle's Friday Chaser email series. And you'll have this in your email so you can reference it later. I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can take some actionable kind of changes to my business based on this data. And I hope that you get a lot of value out of it too. If you made it this far in the video, you're a total badass and I appreciate you. Consider hitting the subscribe button for more great content like this. Thanks again, and I'll look forward to seeing you in a future video.